Who was Kim Il-sung? How did he rise from a guerrilla fighter to North Korea's eternal president? Why did his rule shape an entire nation and continue to spark global controversy? This video will delve into the life of Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung was born Kim Song-ju on April 15, 1912, in Mangyeongdae, near Pyongyang, during the Japanese occupation of Korea. He came from a family with Christian roots. His father, Kim Hyong-jik, was a teacher, and his mother, Kong Pan-sok, was a devout believer. In the 1920s, the family moved to Manchuria to escape Japanese oppression, where Kim was exposed to the communist movement. In 1929, he joined the Korean Communist Youth Association and was arrested, but continued his activities after his release. In 1931, he joined the Communist Party of China and led a guerrilla movement against the Japanese in Manchuria, adopting the name Kim Il-sung, which symbolized his ambitions. His unit, part of the Northeast Anti-Japanese United Army, conducted raids, including the Battle of Pachonbo in 1937, which bolstered his reputation. By 1940, under Japanese pressure, he retreated to the Soviet Union, where he served in the Soviet Red Army until 1945. After Japan's defeat in 1945, Kim returned to Korea on September 19, arriving in Wonsan. With Soviet support, he quickly gained influence, becoming the first secretary of the North Korean branch of the Communist Party. In 1948, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, was established, and Kim became its premier. He consolidated his leadership by purging rivals from the Soviet Korean and Chinese factions. In 1950, Kim Il-sung initiated the Korean War, invading South Korea with the aim of unifying the peninsula. The war, involving the United States, China, and other nations, ended with an armistice in 1953, leaving Korea divided. Over 2.5 million people died, and the DPRK was devastated. Yet Kim's image as a national defender was strengthened. Despite the failure to unify Korea under his rule, Kim Il-sung declared the war a victory in the sense that he remained in power in the north. However, the 3-year war ravaged North Korea, and Kim immediately began extensive rebuilding efforts. He launched a 5-year national economic plan to create a command economy, where all industry would be state-owned and all agriculture collectivized. The economy focused on heavy industry and arms production. By the 1960s, the standard of living in North Korea was higher than in the South, which was plagued by political instability and economic crises. After the war, Kim introduced the Juche ideology, moving away from Marxism-Leninism to emphasize self-reliance and his leadership. The 1955 Juche speech, which stressed Korean independence, debuted in the context of Kim's power struggle against leaders like Pak, who had Soviet backing. Kim developed the Juche policy and ideology in opposition to the idea of North Korea as a satellite state of China or the Soviet Union. Kim transformed North Korea into a personalist dictatorship, with power centralized in his own hands. Kim's cult of personality reached its peak. Hundreds of his statues were erected nationwide, and his birthday, April 15th, was declared Day of the Sun. Kim was also accused of rewriting history to make it appear as though his guerrilla faction single-handedly liberated Korea from the Japanese, completely ignoring the assistance of Chinese People's Volunteers. In 1956, during the August Incident, Soviet Korean and Yenin factions attempted to remove Kim, but he suppressed the rebellion, arresting and executing his opponents. The Songbun system, introduced in the 1950s, classified citizens into 3 castes: core, 25%, wavering, 55%, and hostile, 27%, based on family loyalty. This determined access to education, jobs, housing, and food. For example, descendants of landowners or religious figures were often deemed hostile. Political camps called Kwaliso held enemies of the regime, subjecting them to forced labor, torture, and starvation. By 2007, 6 such camps operated with deadly conditions, including work in mines and logging. Despite his opposition to de-Stalinization, Kim never officially broke relations with the Soviet Union and did not participate in the Sino-Soviet split. After Leonid Brezhnev replaced Khrushchev in 1964, Kim's relations with the Soviet Union grew closer. Kim Il-sung skillfully balanced relations with the Soviet Union and China, securing support from both countries and avoiding dependency. He also maintained ties with other socialist countries, such as Vietnam and Cuba, for expertise and economic aid. His visits to Eastern Bloc countries like East Germany and Romania reinforced the DPRK's anti-Western stance, further isolating it from the rest of the world. In 1968, the DPRK launched an attack on the Blue House, attempting to assassinate the South Korean president, and seized the USS Pueblo, holding its crew for a year. In 1969, a South Korean YS-11 aircraft was hijacked, and its passengers and crew were held for many years. In 1972, a new constitution centralized power, and in 1980, at the 6th Workers' Party Congress, Kim appointed his son, Kim Jong-il, as his successor. The North Korean constitution proclaimed the creation of the position of President of North Korea, and Kim Il-sung became president. From the 1980s, North Korea's economy began to decline amidst South Korea's economic boom, fueled by foreign investment. This was primarily due to the Juche ideology, which isolated North Korea from the world. Economic reforms in China meant that China no longer needed to trade with North Korea, and the collapse of the Soviet Union finally cemented North Korea's isolation. Kim Il-sung died on July 8, 1994, from a calcified growth on the right side of the back of his neck, leaving the nation in mourning. His body was displayed for farewell before his son assumed power. Kim Il-sung's rule transformed the DPRK into an isolated, totalitarian state with a pervasive personality cult and economic stagnation. His Juche ideology, the Songbun system, and the Kwaliso camps left a lasting impact, including human rights abuses such as forced labor and torture. International ties with the USSR, China, Romania, and Albania strengthened his regime but isolated the DPRK from the West. Revered in North Korea as the great leader, his rule remains controversial worldwide, with its consequences still felt today.